Hey everybody, ronarray here, and I've been Cyclone enjoyer for a very long time. And today I want to showcase a new Cyclone version that became possible only in 3.28, inverted Elemental Cyclone build. With that setup, we can reach decent damage without huge investment. No acceleration shrine or void forge required. For defenses, build has 89% of elemental resistances, together with 75 and 73% block in normal version, which can go up to 93% in aspirational version too, together with 1700 energy shield, life plus energy shield recovery on block, and leech, including instant leech, for both life and energy shield too. Build feels very tanky, and to feel even better, there are also 5 endurance charges with a very good uptime and fortification. So without defensive skill, we currently have 112k of ELE max hit and 600k of HP just in the normal version, when the aspirational one can go to infinite HP as well. Cyclone itself will cost 0 mana, so you can just spin without stopping for anything or getting stunned. And since currently we can utilize higher percent of Stampede or Replica Stampede, we can get more movement speed than ever before. All of that making that Cyclone version pretty easy and comfortable to play while literally steamrolling most of the content in the game. How the build works? To reach decent damage without huge investment, we utilize a few different mechanics. First off, we are using Winds of Fate full staff. That's an absolutely amazing staff that has huge physical damage and also has huge global critical strike multiplier. It's giving us physical damage converted to a random element, and that way we can combine it with Trinity support. Because we're always dealing damage with all 3 elements, uptime for Trinity is going to be 100%. The only downside of Winds of Fate is non-critical strikes deal no damage, and maximum critical strike chance is 50%. That downside is pretty big, so Winds of Fate always been stopped just by that line. But right now, in 3.28, we can use Screams of Desiccated Belt, get a bonus from Diamond Shrine. That way, we can always crit our enemies, because Diamond Shrine is guaranteed the crit. It doesn't matter what our critical strike chance is. And since we're always critting, we're always going to deal damage, and all downsides from Winds of Fate are completely disappearing, making the combination of Winds of Fate and Screams of Desiccated with Diamond Shrine absolutely amazing to boost our damage. Also, Winds of Fate is a war staff, so we can get chance to block attack damage while building a staff from it, which is very nice. And on top of it, we can also use Mariline's Fallacy. That's the amulet that gives us less critical strike chance, but significantly more global critical strike multiplier. And also critical strikes have Colony Strike, which is very good to improve our damage even further. Since that amulet is not too expensive, we can also get a corrupted version from it, getting additional maximum resistances. Or if you don't have the budget, you can just run a normal intelligence version. So combination of those 3 items, Winds of Fate, Screams of Desiccated, and Mariline Fallacy, is absolutely mandatory for our damage in that build. We can also combine it with Invert the Rules support, which is a new one. Right now, it gives 41% chance to treat enemy monster elemental resistance values as inverted. Compared to a normal penetration, it's better, because it's working for all type of elemental damage. And since we are using all 3 elemental types at the same time, invert the rules, making the character significantly stronger in terms of damage. We can also combine invert the rules with Elemental Mastery, which adding 15% chance to treat enemy monster elemental resistances values as inverted. And together with the support, we're going to end up with about 55% of chance to invert the resistances, which is very nice for our damage. And since most of our damage is just based on our elementals, we're using only 1 aura to get additional damage such as Hatred, and the rest of the setup requires not that much additions to our damage. We can just focus on survivability instead and push our resistances up to 89%, We can also combine it with capped block to survive significantly better, and since we are doing elemental damage mostly, we can also utilize energy shield, which we can regenerate based on divine shield and leech that we are getting from Cyclone itself. And since we are going to use Screams of Desiccated and we can't be affected by the flasks, we can use Bloodline Ascendancy from King in the Mist to get Unseen Hand and get additional ring slot, since the only downside is utility flasks are disabled. We can't use our flasks anyway. And to improve the damage even further, we can also utilize the Tincture. Because Tincture is working very nice with the build, we can still get huge amount of elemental damage with melee weapons and even additional penetration on top of the reverting the resistances to improve our damage even further. Since Tincture is not a flask, we will be able to use it without a single restraint. Together with 3 rings we're getting from Unseen Hand. So now let's talk about our damage and what it consists of. At the moment, for the build, we're still using the main setup for Cyclone, so it's Cyclone of Tumult together with set of supports, and we also need to calculate the Void Shockwave damage, so you will need to use a full DPS and make sure that your Void Shockwave is included. Void Shockwave is going to help you significantly with clear, so I definitely recommend it at the moment. Next up, you also will be able to use Generous Cry together with Ground Slam of Earthshaking. I really think that Ground Slam is helping a lot against a single target and particular enemies such as Uber bosses. So right here, when we're calculating the full DPS, you will need to look at your Cyclone of Tumult, Ground Slam of Earthshaking, and Void Shockwave. In the normal version, the DPS should be approximately like 90 to 100 millions, depends on the setup and on your items, like how good they are. The big part of that DPS is coming from Prismatic Tincture. So having that Prismatic Tincture up and making sure that you're always using it against a single target is very important. Since we have a pretty decent amount of unreserved mana, around 100, we will be able to have Tincture up very often. So every time when you're encountering the enemy that you're not killing immediately, I recommend to use the Tincture. And it's going to practically double your DPS, so it gives about 100% approximately. Such Tincture could cost like 2 to 3 divines, depends on the situation, and I definitely recommend to invest into it. Now let's talk about items and priorities, what I currently can recommend to play. So first off, to start that build, you will definitely need to get Winds of Fate together with Screams of Desiccated with Diamond Shrine. That should be not too expensive, especially since Diamond Shrine build at the moment costs less than 20 divines. After that, you also will need to get Marilyn Fallacy perfectly, +1 all maximum resistance corruption is recommended, but if those are going to be completely out of the market, you can just run a normal version of it. After that, you will need to finish up with the unique, which is a replica Stampede. Go for higher percent of movement speed, 170 and higher is recommended. It could be a normal Stampede, it could be a replica Stampede, it depends on your budget. I've been testing the build with a replica because it's significantly cheaper and I wanted to keep that part of the build cheaper too. So Essence I already showcased, like for Tincture right here. Just make sure you have elemental damage and melee weapon damage penetrates. For the ring, I heavily recommend to go with the ring which will have some resistances, accuracy and life, together with physical damages extra fire damage. That mod is coming from essences, so it's going to boost your damage if you will be able to get it. Global critical strike multiplier here is not too important, but if you can get it, it would be absolutely perfect. However, if not, don't worry too much about it, just get physical damages extra fire, that's the essence modifier together with accuracy, life and any resistances. If you will get any good ring, I recommend to use a Calandra's Touch to just mirror a good ring, so I'm doing it right here. And the last ring is just going to give you as much stats as possible, so STR, Dexterity, Intelligence, all coming from it. Everything else is not really important on that ring, but if you can feed another physical damages extra fire, it's going to be even better. For your helmet, you don't really need mana reservation from essence modifier, so you can just use the implicit life, some armor and energy shield, together with accuracy and some elemental resistance. That's pretty much it. And for the gloves, here I recommend to get 50% increased damage with hits against shield enemies, attack speed, and life. Everything else is not too important, so just focus on those stats, and you can also roll increased attack damage and damage converted to cold. So that's it for the items. In terms of how to cap the block, we will use Raid Nightmare Crimson Jewel. If you're reading it right here, you will be able to use Fire Tattoos right there, together with Fire Resistance right there, to get practically capped block attack damage just from the jewel itself, because everything around provides elemental resistances and also chance to block. So just use those status and get any Raid Nightmare that you enjoy. So for the rest of the jewels, I'm using clusters. You can go for Calamitus and Devastator if you want a little better clear. To get a Fortify, it's absolutely mandatory to get an Overlord on a jewel. So right here, we're just getting Overlord and Fuel the Fight. And the last cluster is just Feed the Fury and Weight Advantage for the damage. So for Watcher's Eye, I heavily recommend to run Precision, Hatred and Purity of Elements. However, those are kinda rare, and at the moment they've been pretty cheap, but I'm a little afraid that after the video they will increase in price, so just drop Hatred completely out of the question and just run +1 to maximum ELE resistance by Purity and any of the damaging stats for Precision or Hatred. It's going to be more than fine, and most of them cost only a few divines. So the rest of the jewels you can run with maximum resistances. So I'm adding maximum resistances on the jewel right here, and right there we're adding max res as well. After everything we are doing for resistances, you should be around 89%. So your main sources is just Prismatic Skin, Soul of Steel, also Nomadic Techniques, and the rest is just coming from +2 jewels like that one. You can swap resistance on the jewel, so for example, if you will buy a jewel with +2 maximum lightning, you can just use Harvest to swap it into fire or cold. So just search for it, most of them should be not too expensive, and there's a pretty decent amount of them on the market. So for your Ascendancy, we're only going for Bane of Legends, Brutal Fervor and Impact. We're not taking Masterful Form because I believe that going for Frenzy will significantly increase the price of the build. And we're trying to avoid it, so I'm not going for Masterful Form at all. However, in aspirational versions, there definitely would be rings with plus Frenzy charge, so check that one out if you have a very high budget. And your second Ascendancy is just King in the Mist, for Unseen Hand takes the middle, unaffected by poison, and utility flasks are disabled. In the PoE and in the guide, I also created cheaper, normal and aspirational version. There's not much difference between them because initially the build wasn't that expensive at all, so I mostly created those versions only in case if prices will jump after the video. But I hope it will help you out to try out this version, because at the moment I believe such Cyclone could be very comfortable to play. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. ronarray out.